Hey guys, welcome back to Nat One Videos. Recently I've been focusing a lot of my crafting time into learning or trying to learn how to paint minis. And one of the things that I've been wanting to do once I've got my minis painted is to put them into little scenes and take photographs of them, post them on my Instagram, that sort of thing, make them look good. So I've got some old pieces of scattered terrain that I've been putting my minis into. I've got one for Aragorn that looks great, I've got one for Gimli that looks great. I painted Legolas last night. And I have a piece of scattered terrain that's just a bit tired and old looking. The flocking, the clump foliage that I used on this is an old piece of kitchen sponge and it just doesn't look real, it's not looking good. The flocking I used on it was a piece of string that I cut up and dyed green, and the board itself is actually warped so that the edges go up at the side. The thing is though, I really like the tree and I also really like the rock that's in there. As a piece, I want it to look good and I don't want to just throw this piece of scattered terrain away. So in this video we're going to be fixing up some old scattered terrain. The idea being that if you have a piece of scattered terrain that you kind of like but it looks like crap, you can fix it up and make it look good again. So that's what we're going to do today. So while I'm ripping this ugly old clump foliage off my gnarly old tree, I'm going to mention straight off the bat that today is officially Tolkien Reading Day. So I have a short little segment about that a little bit later on in the video, and maybe tonight you can grab yourself some ale, put your feet up with the book and get lost in Middle Earth. Anyway, more about that in a bit. Ugh, look at this ugly old clump foliage. If you're a regular here on the channel, you may have seen me make this piece of scattered terrain. I love the shape and the colour and the texture of the tree, but as you can see, the rest of it just lacks luster. First thing to address is the terrible flimsy base. I had used some basic box cardboard which is prone to warping badly and is also not that durable. So this thick chipped cardboard is much better suited for the job, and when glued with hot glue the whole thing instantly becomes more sturdy and all the original warping is gone. Another thing I didn't like about the base was the poor application of textures and flocking. I mean, it still looks like cardboard and I've since learned how to use bark really effectively. The bark chippings, when glued in place, not only give the piece a great natural rocky terrain look, but also add to the strength and helps to prevent further warping. It's super easy to make this bark flocking with a blender and some dried out pine bark. You can see here that when I glued the new base onto the bottom, there were a few gaps and also corrugated cardboard holes around the edge that just look horrible. So running super glue around the edges and sprinkling on the fine dust from the bark chippings perfectly fills the gaps and gives the edge a natural look. Already you can see by just doing these few steps, the base and the scattered terrain looks so much better and believable as a piece of terrain. Okay, straight on to the painting, and recently I've completely changed my colour scheme. I used to use mainly greys, but it always resulted in quite cartoony looking rocks, which I want to move away from. As always, I base coat in black paint and Mod Podge to seal it and give a nice dark base colour, and after doing an overbrushing of graphite grey, I've taken to using burnt umber over both the earthy and the rocky sections of my terrain, followed up by a tan colour that I mix up from burnt umber and titanium white. With this tan colour I dry brush all over the rocky areas and leave the muddy areas straight burnt umber. I have also moved from using neutral grey to using green grey for my higher tone dry brushing. The green hue really adds to a more natural look because rocks and stones, well, they really aren't grey in most cases. For final highlights again, I add a little titanium white to the green grey. So another new technique that I've been putting to use a lot more recently is the use of washes, and this Agrax Earthshade is perfect. I just put it over the whole project and it brings out a really nice earthy tone. The main changes that I have made with flocking application is to use a variety of different flocks in the same piece. After covering the grassy areas with a watered down PVA, I start off with sawdust flock. I've been using two different colours and have found that even just two colours makes a piece a little more natural looking. To give even more variation, I then sprinkle on some mixed blend static grass. This blend has some yellow tones as well as some darker greens, and my favourite little addition that I've been making to all my ground covering is these little bushy grass tufts. The dark colour really breaks up the look of the terrain and the longer grass just makes the whole thing look more natural and believable. And to top it off, I finally add some decent clump foliage to my tree using hot glue. The old sponge clump foliage that I had made myself really brought the whole piece down, so I'm really happy to have a canopy that does my awesome little string tree justice. And that's it. It's extremely easy to go back to old terrain and freshen it up with the new techniques that you've learned. Right, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, today is Tolkien Reading Day, so as I show you a few glamour shots of Legolas in his terrain and also Aragorn and Gimli, I'm going to play you one of my favourite passages from The Two Towers with an awesome quote by Legolas, read by my old gaffer.
The sun was sinking when at last they drew near to the end of the line of downs. For many hours they had marched without rest. They were going slowly now, and Gimli's back was bent. Stone hard are the dwarves in labour or journey, but this endless chase began to tell on him as all hope failed in his heart. Aragorn walked behind him, grim and silent, stooping now and again to scan some print or mark upon the ground. Only Legolas still stepped as lightly as ever, his feet hardly seeming to press the grass, leaving no footprints as he passed. But in the waybread of the elves he found all the sustenance that he needed, and he could sleep, if sleep it could be called by men, resting his mind in the strange paths of elvish dreams, even as he walked open-eyed in the light of the world. "Let us go up onto this green hill," he said. Wearily they followed him, climbing the long slope until they came upon the top. It was a round hill, smooth and bare, standing by itself, the most northerly of the downs. The sun sank, and the shadows of evening fell, like a curtain. They were alone in a grey formless world without mark or measure. Only far away northwest there was a deeper darkness against the dying light, the mountains of mist and the forest at their feet. "Nothing can we see to guide us here," said Gimli. "Well, now we must halt again, and wear the night away. It is growing cold." "The wind is north from the snows," said Aragorn. "And ere morning it will be in the east," said Legolas. "But rest if you must, yet do not cast all hope away. Tomorrow is unknown. Reed oft is found at the rising of the sun."
So there we go, guys, going back to some old scatter terrain, readdressing the colours that I use, the type of flocking that I use, fixing some bowing in the base, and yeah, maybe adding a little bit of wash as well, because back whenever I made this I wasn't into washes at the time, and it's just brought the whole thing back up again. It's turned it from a piece of scatter terrain that I kind of liked into a piece of scatter terrain that I love, and it's perfect for my little Legolas Mini as a little display piece. And the other purpose that I really made this video for this week, guys, is on the mini prick painting front. I've been trying to get tips from some of the best mini painters that I know on YouTube, that I've kind of made acquaintances with and friends with over the last couple of months, and I've invited them all onto my channel this Friday night for a painting session. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick up any tips because I think everyone's bringing beers, so we're just going to have a blast trying to paint some minis, have a chat, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So if you're free tomorrow night, come join us for some painting, bring some minis, bring some beers, and yeah, get involved in the chat. It should be a lot of fun. Yeah, you can check those guys out in the links below this video. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Bye. Before I go, guys, I just want to say a massive thank you as always to my patrons who are on the screen right now. I hope you guys have been enjoying the extra bonus content and the behind the scenes footage. Make sure to let me know if there's anything else that you would like to see. And to any new viewers out there who would like to come and join us, please check out my Patreon link in the description below this video. You would be most welcome. And also, just to mention that this Sunday on the Crazy Crafter livestream, we will be having our good friend Carl from Carl Makes Stuff back on the show, making some cool things with green stuff. Hope to see you then. Bye.